So you might be thinking, wow, I'm a web developer now. I've designed and I've replicated the Apple website, and I'm actually very good at this thing. Uh, Trust me, you're just a beginner. And I'm going to teach you now the fundamentals of designing pro websites that are very, very, very perfect and have got the best standards. The idea of this course is to transform you from a basic web developer into a web developer who knows what they are doing. Let me teach you fluid design. So, what is fluid design? Fluid design is something that came out of a challenge where people were using what we call pixels as a standard unit for setting dimensions. So we used to have fixed width layouts where these designs were, were were made from pixels, which are standard units, such that your website becomes pixel perfect. You had something like that. So we've now come from that to fluid because of different devices and different screens. Before, you could only access websites on desktops. And this is what brings the term responsivity. Is your website responsive to this and that device? So, because of these new devices that have come out to be, we have tablets, we have laptops, we have desktops. We now have um, new units of measurements that are not just pixels. So, pixel is a fixed unit of measurement in web design that corresponds to a single dot on the screen. This is what traditionally the default unit for defining elements such as width, height, font sizes, margins, and padding. And they offered precision in terms of the exact size of elements on a screen. So positioning things were very easy. They were used because they represented what we call a fixed measurement, and we would create layouts based that were pixel perfect, as I said. So the design was much simpler because we used pixels. But what happened is that we had new devices coming in. Every phone manufacturer has got their own screen, their own tablet. We have laptops with different resolutions, and using pixels became harder. So these are some of the challenges of using pixels in modern design. One, pixels are fixed. They don't scale with the screen size, which means they can look crumpled on smaller screens or oversized on larger screens. They're not flexible. It does not allow for elements to adapt based on the user preferences or the screen they're viewing from. Accessibility issues, users who have impaired vision or those who prefer to zoom in for better readability may find that a pixel based design doesn't scale well with their needs. We have device diversity with an increasing range of devices from mobile phones to ultra wide screens. Designs based on pixels often resulting in broken layouts, inconsistent spacing, and poor user experiences. I don't like pixels at all. So, why did we move to fluid design? We moved to fluid design to avoid the limitations that I've just talked about. And fluid design allows web elements to adapt based on the sign of the screen, improved flexibility, and responsiveness. It uses units like ems, rems, percentages, view heights, and view width, create layers that automatically scale and adjust, ensuring that websites look great on any device, whether it's a phone or tablet. So, what are ems and rems? So, ems and rems are relative units used in CSS to create scalable design. An em is relative to the font size of the current element, meaning that if the font size of a parent element is 16 pixel, one em will be equal to 16 pixels. Okay. If we change that parent element as our font to 18, one em will be equal to 18. If we change it to 30, one em will be equal to 30. So it allows for adjustments to the font size in relation to the parent, making it flexible and scalable. Let's say I have my normal font weight as 20. and I want my H1, which is my first heading, to be 40. If I put my H1 as 2m, it will be 2 times my root element, which is 20, which will be 40. So I will replace my H1 to be 2m. If I want my H2 to be 30 pixels, I will put my H2 to be 1.5 m. So what is a rem? A rem is a root m, which are always relative to the root element, which is the HTML font size, which is typically 16 by default. So this makes rems consistent across the entire page. They do not change with the nested elements or anything. So um, rem will always be uh, 16 pixels. One rem will always be 16 pixels. It does not change with the parent. So even if I change my parent or my root element, my root, let's say font to 20, 1m will be 16. So that's the difference between m's and rems. Percentages are commonly used in CSS to create layouts that are just based on the parent's container's dimension. If you're setting an element's width to 50%, it will take half the width of its parent container, regardless of the actual pixel size. So if I say this container I want it to be 50%, it will actually be 50% of the screen, regardless which screen. If it's the biggest, it will still be 50%. That is why we love using fluid design. VH and VW. VH is what we call viewport height, and VW is what we call viewport width, and they are relatives to the dimensions of the viewport and the visible area of the browser. So one VH is equals to 1% of the viewport's height, and one VW equals to 1% of the viewport's width. So if I put my viewport height, which is VH, to 50%, it's the same as putting my container width to as 50%. Okay, so if I have a VH of 50, it's like I'm having 50% of the screen. This makes this units ideal for creating full screen sections and elements that should adjust dynamically as the screen changes. So how do we combine now EMS, REMS, VH, VW, and percent in a single design? To create a truly fluid design, you can combine multiple relative units like EMS, REMS, VH, VW, and percentages. E.g., you could set the typography using rems, add spacing with ems, to create fluid grids using percentages for widths. So to create a full screen sections, you might use VH for height and VW for width. So when you combine all this, you will have a design that is adaptable to every screen, and that is now what we say your screen is responsive. Okay, you might see these tenders, see a client that tells you, will you give us a responsive design? So responsive design is based on what we call fluid design.